guys, welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and today on the podcast we have Robyn DelMonte, aka GirlBossTown on TikTok and Instagram. If you scroll TikTok frequently, you've definitely seen one of Robyn's videos. She is one of the best at analyzing celebrity, not from a gossipy kind of hearsay blind item perspective, but really more from a marketing, PR, and branding perspective. She's a lot to say about brand campaigns, celebrity PR, and she thinks about things so deeply because she is just such a pop culture addict that she knows a lot about this stuff, and everything she posts is super informed and just really intelligent. And so I love what she puts out there, and I loved getting time with her to pick her brain about that, hear about how this all got started. I mean, she's had a crazy year. She really only started doing this like a year and a half ago. And now brands are coming to her and asking for her consulting help on certain campaigns and celebrity alignment and things like that. And so she really does know what she's talking about. She's a trusted voice in this space. You know, at the end of the day, celebrities are brands. And so if you are paying attention to pop culture and celebrity, then hearing this chat with her is going to be really interesting to you. And she had really great answers to a lot of my questions and a lot of great thoughts about some current pop culture topics that we talked about at the end. So anyway, keep listening for my interview with Robyn DelMonte. Follow her at GirlBossTown on TikTok and Instagram. And please rate, review, and subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we're here with Robyn DelMonte, who you might know as GirlBossTown across social media. She is the internet's agent. Robyn, how are you? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing incredible. Thank you so much. And by the way, internet's agent is a self-proclaimed title, but we love it. And it's my favorite thing that I've come up with. But yeah, no, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am good. We were just talking about you're gearing up for Coachella this weekend. I'm in New York where
Coachella.
it's very nice. I'm skipping Coachella for the first time in like 4 years. So
Really?
um,
So, I've never been to the actual festival, but my sister lives in Coachella Valley, and
oh, there we go.
on social media, I'm very extroverted. On the inside, I'm super, super introverted. So this will be a test for me, but I'm really excited to see Frank Ocean, and that's like the reason I'm going. So I'm sure I'll have fun with it and hopefully get a good tan before returning back home to Boston.
Yes, we need that. So I mean, just jumping right into it, I feel like Coachella in the past, 5, probably 10 years has really become like a branding like extravaganza. Like every
Yeah.
brand seems to have some sort of tie-in there. There's so many activations, so many other parties that happen outside of Coachella. Are you kind of like primed to think about to kind of have your brain moving in that realm, sort of as you're going through the weekend?
Yeah, definitely. And it's so cool because a lot of the brands that I like have my eye on and want to work with and or that I look up to have activations at Coachella. And last year I made videos kind of predicting some brand activations, but this year I'll actually be able to be at the festival and see them in person. So totally. I mean, that's just how my brain works naturally. So I'm really, really excited for that.
Mm-hmm. So, and is that I was going to kick off like, kind of before I knew that you were going to Coachella. Like, I wanted to sort of know because I've watched a bunch of interviews to prep for
Mhm.
this in terms of like it seems like you are always thinking about something. Like it's either a celebrity thing or a brand thing or a campaign that's just like kind of living in your head and you're thinking about it and whatever. Is Coachella sort of what's top of mind for you right now, or is there something else that you're kind of thinking about and analyzing at the moment?
Okay, so weirdly enough, I heard about this brand called Alice, and they're like a mushroom brand that
Okay.
has one brand that helps you get to sleep and one that helps you be creative and energizes. And it's not the type of mushrooms that you trip on, but they use certain types of mushroom to kind of help the creative in your brain. And there's ones that help you calm down. And I was really looking into that industry because I feel like that will be next. Sorry. That will be like really cool, like the psilocybin industry. I was
Totally.
doing research into that, and that's kind of been top of mind for me. And as a creative, I've been seeing a lot of brands starting to pop up utilizing that in like the wellness space, but that also mixes with like the creative space. So I've been thinking about that. Also, definitely thinking about Coachella and what type of activations there'll be, and then going into summer where I feel like everybody's a little happier, everybody's a little bit more creative and can have fun
Yeah.
with things. So yeah, I have a couple things at top of mind, but also all of the celebrity breakups that's been happening has been top of my mind as well.
I was just listening to a podcast and they were pointing out like it really is sort of breakup season right now. Like it's sort of
So either
it
people
kind of
are getting
always happens as we go into spring because like I think people are kind of
oh,
just a
want to be
little more
single for
frisky,
summer.
whatever. There we go.
Yeah.
But like it feels extra that this year.
Yeah. I think either celebrities right now are getting married or breaking up. Like it's like there's no middle ground currently. And I feel like in high school, everybody's boyfriends would break up with them before summer because they wanted to like have a summer. And I think that's
Yep.
happening in the celebrity world.
Yeah, I think so too. I think and there's certain, well, I'm going to talk about some of those sort of towards the end of this interview, but like some of them are kind of shifting the entire like celebrity news industry. Like it's big.
Like Scandal.
Yeah, Scandival, Taylor Swift, like
Taylor
it's big
Swift.
right now. Yep.
Yes. So
So
I
before we get too far,
honestly, but real
you
quick
go.
about the breakup, somebody needs to make a coffee table book of everybody's notes app apology and breakup notes. Like, you know how everybody posts notes apps? Like,
Hmm.
there's so many notes app breakups and apologies. We need to turn that into a coffee table book.
Turn it into a coffee table book and it would just really show you like you know, sometimes people go really straightforward with it, which I think that's sort of my preference for seeing those, but sometimes people get really creative with their fonts and their colors.
Everything. Yeah. And I'm like, whose PR did this? But yes, I agree. But I'm excited to get into other things with you as well.
Yes. So before we get too far into it, I just sort of want to do a little bit of a just deep dive on how you got to where you are right now, because it's been a kind of wild year and a half for you. You
Mhm.
were working in LA, came back home to Boston because of a family matter. You quit
Yeah.
your corporate job. You're waitressing, working in anthropology, then also
Yeah.
posting on TikTok on the side. And from my understanding, you were doing more like celebrity kind of analysis, entertainment news kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, you pivoted, and some of that started to go viral for you. But at a certain point, you sort of pivoted more into, you know, brand building, PR, marketing, like still adjacent to celebrity, but sort of
Yeah.
more that was your lens of looking at it.
Mhm.
And I guess like because I don't want to have to, because I'm sure you've rehashed this story for
Yeah.
a million different podcasts, but what was the point when you realized that you could quit that waitressing and anthropology job? Was it you were bringing a certain amount of money in via this content creation, or was it like, oh, I reach a certain follower count, let me see if I can turn this into a real business for
Yeah.
myself?
It's a really good question. And I think the answer is a little bit of both. However, what people don't understand is, even though this is getting a little technical, when it comes to bringing in money, um, it'll be like net 30 days, net 60 days. So you might sign a contract for a certain amount of money and be like, oh my God, this is incredible, but you don't get it for 2 months. So kind
Right.
of plan accordingly of like when I'm going to start seeing the money that I'm making. I don't necessarily think I thought of it as like a followers thing, like, oh, I have this amount of followers. I can quit. I think it was when I signed with UTA, my agents, got a certain amount of brand deals, and then had to believe in myself and kind of take the chance to be like, okay, this is turning into a full-time job. And I want to give my full self to it. So I'm going to tap out of my other jobs and put everything I have into this and take a leap of faith and believe in myself. And to be honest, when it comes to followers, I definitely gained a lot of followers, but I'm not one of the biggest creators. Like I don't have super
Right.
big follower numbers, but my engagement was there and I was starting to gain a community rather than a lot of followers. And I think brands saw that. And also, one of the biggest blessings for me is brands want to work with me, not because I have X amount of followers, but because I have ideas, which I think will give me longevity in this industry. And once we kind of figured out with my team the direction we were going to go in, we took that leap of faith. I ended up quitting the job that I had, and everything ended up working out. But the first year, I've only really been doing this full time for like a year-ish.
Hmm.
You learn so much. You figure out what you like and what you don't like, and you kind of my career has evolved so much since I took that leap of faith and quit my corporate job. But I think to wrap it all up, the question, I believed in myself, kind of took a leap of faith, had a certain amount of money that I was going to have in my bank account when I was able to quit. And then just looking forward, had a plan of action of how I was going to approach the industry and what that was going to look like.
Definitely. And in one of the interviews that I watched that you did recently, you talked about the difference between going viral and gaining a following. And I think that that's a really important distinction to make. I think that's very smart that you present it that way. And I would wonder if you just elaborate on the importance of that for a content creator to be thinking about that you know, because there is a big difference.
Way big difference. And that's why I don't let the numbers game like eat at me a little bit, because I feel like a lot of the times we compare each other to everyone in the industry, and you'll look at your videos and your numbers and play that numbers game. But there's such a difference between going viral and having a community. Like, there's certain people that peel eggs on TikTok and have like 1 million followers, but they're not going to have a career out of it. They don't have a community that they could sell something, even create trust. And if you think about it, a lot of times my audience spends more time on their phone than like with people in their actual lives. So they look at me and have so much trust in me. And that trust in that community allows people to want to take action off the app, which is why brands want to work with you. So going viral is great. Like, having your voice be heard and be seen is incredible. And there is definitely something behind going viral when it comes to working with a brand. Every brand wants your video to go viral, but I also wouldn't count out like just the simple fact of continuing to build a community and honing in on that and having brands look at that rather than just the numbers game.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it might not get 8 million views, but it might get 600,000 views, but also like 10,000 comments. And you know what I mean? And it's like people are having a conversation under your video.
100%. And to be completely honest, when I started in this industry, I think I had maybe 10,000 followers. And that's when the big Hollywood agents and people were reaching out to me. And even though I didn't have the numbers, it still crossed their desk because of how the FYP and TikTok works. So it's like only one right person needs to be able to see your video to make a difference and have something change in your life. Or say your community sees the video of a product that I'm doing a collab with, it's like my community is going to want to support me and buy that product, rather than if certain people went viral and they tried to send something, it's like maybe they don't have as much trust in a community and they wouldn't want to go out and buy that product and have that trust.
And I also heard you talk about sort of, and I didn't hear you name names of that people in this industry that you're now a part of that maybe came before you or have sort of helped pave some sort of path. They actually did like help you and answer your questions about certain things that come with this territory. And I was wondering if like you are you comfortable naming any names of people that we might know that did help you along the way? Because it shows sort of also that it's not as necessarily hyper competitive as people might perceive it to be.
Yeah, the D'Amelio family reached out to me very early on in my career, and
I love them.
Their team in general reached out to me and have been nothing but supportive since, which was crazy to me because I just watched the show and then I was able to like go to their house and just meet and talk with them, and they're always there to answer questions, especially Heidi and like their team in general.
Yeah.
And then obviously the girls, like the D'Amelio family has helped my career so much and has helped me out. Victoria Paris was a creator right when I started making TikToks that reached out and helped me tremendously, especially when it comes to how to monetize and what contracts look like and things like that. Because she actually has a background in finance that I don't know if people know about. And then I would definitely say people like Teffy and Serena Kerrigan as well have definitely helped me a lot because they were in the space in the COVID days a little before me. So they had a year or two under their belt where we could really discuss and help me out. And it doesn't always look like numbers, but sometimes it just looks like helping me out with my mental health and this massive change of lifestyle. So yeah, there's definitely been a lot of people in this industry, in this space, that have completely changed my life in the sense of being a mentor.
Yeah, and that's the kind of information that's not freely available on the internet because, I mean, people haven't there. I mean, it's been like 4 years of TikTok really kind of being mainstream and kind of people being able to be creators on there, and so that's invaluable.
And even I remember Victoria Paris at the beginning of my career. She's like, "You do know that like, because when you think of the word like consultant, I'm like, I'm not a consultant. Like I've never had that job before." And she's like, "Robyn, exactly what you're doing online right now is consulting. Like brands need people like us to connect them with what the audience wants, what type of videos go off, like because the people in the office who are making these decisions aren't necessarily on these apps every single day." So it's in the industry, like you said, is so new, so things are always changing and that information isn't out there for me to look up. But yeah, it's now whenever I see somebody coming up in the industry, I always try to help because I had so many people help me in the beginning.
talk to me a little bit about the pivot that you made from the more entertainment news, pop culture analysis to shifting it to having that brand and marketing PR lens to it. Because it was that like obviously that was a natural interest for you, but was that also sort of like a long play for you of like, oh, like this could help me build it and make it into more of a sustained thing and have my hand in different buckets?
Yeah, it was not a conscious choice, to be completely honest. I
Got
was
it.
a little hung over on my couch one day, and the first video I made was PR moves for Madison Beer. While I was
Ah,
watching the D'Amelio show, because I was like, wow, this is really great for the D'Amelio brand because it gives empathy for their success. And I think to be successful in this industry, if you're beautiful, talented, smart, people might tend to turn on you easily. But when they have empathy for your success and your story, they're more willing to support you. And I was like, I think something like this docuseries would be great for like a Madison Beer. Made the video, and then ever since then, everything changed. However, very early on, I made a conscious decision to be like, okay, this can turn into a career. But
yeah.
it ebbs and flows. Like recently, I've been making a lot of pop culture content again, and it's been doing very well. So I always go back and forth because I think they're so intertwined as well. It's like
Yeah, of course.
all that, yeah, all that I do with these marketing and branding videos, I always say that I'm a creative director, a social strategist, and a trend forecaster. And the reason I do all these things is because I've been such a consumer of pop culture my whole life. But yeah, it wasn't conscious at first at all, but that's how I think TikTok goes. Like a lot of the
Right.
times you make videos that you don't think are going to pop off, and those are the ones that literally change your life. So
And they just lean into it. Exactly. Yeah.
yes, definitely
Yeah.
leaning into
I mean,
it. And
and at the end of the day, like celebrities are brands. Celebrities are some of our best
exactly.
marketers. So yeah, totally.
100%. And they inspire me a lot when I'm like, oh, like that person has been posting this a lot. This would be great for them to do a collab with this. Like it's inspiring, even though growing up a lot of times people thought my interests were extremely vapid by being so interested in pop culture.
Same.
But now I'm looking back at them now and I'm like, so was it vapid? Because now I have a career out of it. So it's really cool to
Exactly. Yeah.
be able to like do both.
100%. And I know that people like will comment on certain things and tag you in things and be like, can you analyze this brand or talk about this
Yeah.
campaign or what have you? How do you kind of go about, I don't know, kind of going into that pressure of like, okay, I
Yeah.
should talk about this, or like versus actually just talking about what you naturally are kind of like inspired or passionate to talk about?
Well, first and foremost, I think that is the thing that I am most proud of in my career is that when people think of marketing and branding in the celebrity and influencer space, they automatically think of GirlBossTown. So when I see people tagging me, it's like I did my job right in branding myself. Because whenever a
Right.
new campaign collab comes out, people are like, "Oh, what is GirlBossTown thing?" Which I think is great. It's my own horn, but I really love that people do that. So I try to hone in on it as much as possible. However, there are certain things that people will want me to speak about, not necessarily when it comes to like marketing and branding, but certain pop culture topics that I'm like, there's only like sometimes there's a line that I cross where I'm like, I don't really want to speak about that because I think a lot of times in pop culture, there are things they want me to speak about that are super personal for people. And sometimes I think we take it too far as a society and like fully exposing things. But when it comes to the marketing and branding thing, I'll talk about it if it inspires me. But if it's something that I'm not super interested in or don't have that much to say, like if I'm just like, oh, this is good, that would make a good video. But if I'm like, oh, I've been thinking about this for a while, like it kind of depends on my interest, but also leaning into my audience and what they want, because that's so important to build that trust and relationship.
Totally. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that there's probably a lot of people who want you to get into the nitty gritty with certain celebrity gossip things, but it's like ultimately those
Yes.
are gonna lean negative and lean a little bit speculative, and that's not what you
Yeah.
are.
And this is the thing too. Like I grew up watching Joan Rivers. I love Morgan Stewart. I love people who have opinions on celebrity pop culture.
We
That's
love
what
an
makes
edge.
pop culture
Yes,
great. So I will
totally.
always give my opinion. But when it just comes, I feel like sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're so biased," or like, "You won't talk badly about this person because like you know them." Whatever. I'm like, I'll give my honest opinion, but I'm not going to tear somebody down.
There's such a
And
difference, right?
yeah, and to be completely honest, we all have done that in the past when talking about pop culture and videos and being like, oh, like she gave him another chance. Like, oh, I don't like, we've all done that. But now as I've matured and grown in this industry, I try to consciously be aware that like there's certain things that even if it's a negative opinion that we don't really need to talk about, you know what I mean? But still try to
Mm-hmm.
be authentic and honest with my opinions.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever circle back on some of your predictions, whether they are right or wrong? Like, talk to me about how you go about that and either proving yourself right or wrong.
Yeah, there's been some scary ones that like I scare myself. For example, I predicted Chloe and Tristan falling apart and her being pregnant with a surrogate in the month that it was born and the gender that it was going to be born randomly, like all in one sitting. It was like in 2022 on New Year's Eve, I was doing like Kardashian predictions, and the video, like I said everything word for word that happened, and I was just
Wow.
pulling this out of nowhere, and it happened, and I circled back and I was like, guys, this is a little scary, but look at this one. And Chloe actually like liked one of my personal Instagrams that day. And I was like, I don't know if this is her way of saying that she saw this and is freaked out or something.
I
Or
mean, come
maybe it was
on, that's not a
fake.
coincidence. I don't know.
I know. I was like, oh my God. But it literally could have just been a mistake. But yeah, I definitely circle back, and I think that is what gained people's trust a lot, is because my first year I did a lot of predictions and they ended up coming true. And I wouldn't say I'm psychic. I think it's a mixture of trend forecasting and being a pop culture diehard. But yeah, circling back is always cool. But sometimes I get it really wrong. So it's like I'm not here to be like, I always get it right. Sometimes
Totally,
I'm
exactly.
off the mark. But that's the fun in this.
Yeah,
I like have a lot of
100%.
fun with those types of videos.
Just using this as an example, you've analyzed Rhode and Hailey Bieber and some of that campaign stuff and some of those brand images.
Yeah.
And then you also met Hailey Bieber at a certain
Yeah.
not that long ago.
Mm.
What is a moment like that like? Like, does she know what you do? Do you guys acknowledge that? Like, because that must be something that you're kind of coming across more often
Yeah.
these days.
Like when I meet people that I speak about in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
yeah, so Hailey, I got invited to that road event because her social team like showed her the video and she's like, oh my God, totally invite her. So when I met her in person, I was like, oh, I'm GirlBoss, and she's like, oh, I know who you are. Like, and
Love it.
we acknowledged that like that's a thing, you know what I mean? And I've met certain like at that same party I met Kendall and Kylie, and that was the craziest, coolest moment of like my life because they like knew my name and had talked about my videos. So it's really cool when those types of moments happen because certain celebrities don't necessarily follow you. Like, so it's like I wouldn't never think that these people have seen my
That you're
videos,
seeing it.
but then in
Yeah.
person, they'll recognize me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so major and so cool. And kind of going back to what I was saying before, it's like a lot of the times I'm honest. Like if I see, I've said it about so many celebrities being like, so they just did this campaign. I'm not that much of a fan of it, but this is how I would creative direct it. So like I give my actual opinion, but I'm never rude about it. And I always give like options of what I would do. So it's never like I'm seeing somebody in person and they're like, oh my God, they said this about me. You know what I mean?
Right. Totally.
Um, it's extremely, extremely surreal because I am a pop culture diehard. So even though I'm quote unquote in the industry, I still geek out over all of these things. Like, and love it so much.
Tell me one or two celebrities that you think are some of the best brand builders or meet the moment the most or sort of have the
Okay.
best awareness of what's going on in culture.
There's a lot. I'm trying to think, like, for example, like I think Rihanna with Fenty and the Super Bowl, everything that embodied that whole like week's worth of campaigns up to the Super
Yeah.
Bowl performance. She's pregnant and a mother. I'm like, she's doing it all, and she has her finger on the pulse of what is relevant 100%. Also I love Devin Lee Carlson and her sisters in Wildflower phone cases. I think girls who grew up being like on YouTube or like just grew up being online and then kind of got pushed into this like young Hollywood lifestyle and build their own brands. It's like, yes, they are like on a certain pedestal now, but they grew up in internet culture and they know trends.
Mm-hmm.
And they know how to like connect with their fans. And
Yeah.
I love people like that. And you can definitely tell the difference.
Mm-hmm. So you have said that your brand is branding. And to me, like
Yeah.
that's one, it's very accurate, but also two, it almost to me like almost reflects like a full circle moment about like content creation and influencing, which is like it's sort of now you're sort of somebody who is a content creator or could be called an influencer, and but you're informed by what's going on in that space. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think that is do you think that's at all reflective of like what's happening at a larger capacity in the in influencer content creator space?
Definitely. And I always say that like the reason I am where I'm at in my career is because I have such an incredible team. I had really great ideas, and I'm not diminishing my talent, but I also think it was really right place, right time, because I do see the industry shifting. I speak at so many panels, so many CEO panels, so many CMO panels. I'm a conference queen, which a lot of people don't know because I don't
Love that
necessarily
for
show
you.
it a lot on this app, but I do that purposely so I can meet with the people who are shifting the industry, with the CEOs, with the CMOs, and I can see that now they want to let people who are on these apps every day, native creators, in on the process when it comes to building brands and the creative, because they know our intel is so important. So having them be able to tap us and work with us, not just in front of the camera with the script, but behind it, is so important. And I definitely think it's a reflection of the industry. We still have a long way to go. And also, I don't blame brands for not wanting to do it at first, because they could look at somebody like me and being like, well, we've had somebody who works here in marketing for 20 years. Like, what are you going to do? But it's finding that mix of like old and new ways, and like meshing that and creating incredible branding campaigns that just are innovative and fresh and fun. So the industry is definitely shifting, and I think my career is a representation of that, which is so incredibly cool.
Yeah, and it's not about. I mean, and when you come into those situations, I'm sure it's not about you telling everybody what to do. It's about you have this
Yeah.
idea. How do we collaborate on it? How do we meet about like where you're coming from as a brand to where I'm coming from as
Yeah.
a creator and make something amazing?
Totally, exactly. And there are some brands, and people be shocked by CEOs and CMOs at these summits that you might get intimidated because you're like, oh my God, like they're such a senior level position. At first, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, but then I go out to dinner with them or meet with them at these conferences, and they're like, oh my God, we want to know more. Like, what do you think? And they're really open to these ideas, which just
hmm
gives me so much hope and is so exciting for me.
hmm So to close this out, I want to go into some of the celebrity topics that we touched on very quickly
Yay,
at the top.
of course.
I mean, to me, there's no bigger topic right now than the Taylor Swift Joe Alwyn breakup,
Uh-huh.
and I've already. I mean, it's like I wasn't surprised about how kind of world shifting it almost felt that like last weekend, but it could, because she drives so much of the conversation around pop music. But I guess like what do you make of the rollout of that news, and what do you think we can expect kind of in the next several months from that?
Yeah. Well, shout out Tree Payne, her publicist, who
Shout
is
out. We love Trey.
icon. She is a major inspiration of mine. And I think the rollout was kind like you said, kind of like, whoa, this is like kind of unexpected, especially because she's in such a high, and a lot of the Eras Tour music and her redemption arc was obviously based on her and her taking her
Yeah.
power back, which is iconic. So I always look at her as an independent woman, but I've also so just supported her and Joe because her music reflects that she finally found this happiness that she deserves. So uh, the Eras Tour celebrates that so much, and then for this news to drop, I'm like, that's devastating. But at the same time, I feel like those photos of her that came out like 3 days ago going out in New York City,
Yeah.
that was Tree Payne's greatest work. She looked
100%.
happy, purposeful. She's never photographed. So I think they're rolling out the story of almost like they ended on good terms, but Taylor is at such a high in her life right now, and she's going to have fun with it. And we don't need to tie her down with a new person. We don't need to push an album on her to write because of all this breakup that happened. I think she's like the most successful woman in the industry, like one of the most successful women in the industry, and she should celebrate that and have fun. And going through a breakup while performing the biggest tour of your life must be difficult. But I hate the narrative that people do when just around breakups with women in the industry. It's, I think, corny and useless, and like we should just look at Taylor as like whatever she wants to do next is great. Let's celebrate her art, her music, and her independence and go from there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing that I'm going to pay attention to is like, I'm so curious how much of the privacy that she has leaned into in the past several years since being with Joe. I'm curious how much of that she's going to maintain or break out of, because she, like you said, she doesn't get photographed that much
Never.
and I'm just curious to see how public she's going to be kind of in the next year or two.
Yeah, and it's all like calculated, sounds negative connotation, but calculated in a good way.
It's
Like she was
thought through. Yeah.
yeah, she had a butterfly purse in the photos of her going out, and people are like, oh, is she gonna redo debut because there was a butterfly in the cover? Like, everything, even when she is being public, it's for a reason. So it's always fun to kind of that.
100%. What do you make of the Kylie Timothy Chalamet rumors?
Okay.
And then just generally how that sort of fits into like how you think about Kylie Jenner these days, sort of as a brand and what she's kind of doing.
So I really looked up to Kylie when I was like younger in the social media sense. I always thought she had her finger on the pulse of what was relevant.
Yeah,
when
I agree.
Came out, she was on it. Like, and I told her this to her face. I was like, you are like you embodied social media for so long, but then obviously life has way bigger plans, and becoming a mom is just like, I think one of the greatest gifts. So she kind of obviously had to do her motherly duties and build a business, and was a little private for a little bit. But now I think she's been posting on social media a little bit more, and I love that. And especially when she does like photo dumps and shows us a little bit into her life, which makes us feel very connected to her. But the Timothy Chalamet rumors, I honestly can so see, because her first boyfriend, Jaden Smith, was in this group called like Misfits, like these Misfits back in the day, and they were all these like skater, like indie cool kids, and that was kind of her vibe at the very beginning.
I remember that.
And now she's circling back to that vibe again with like a Timothy Chalamet. So I can so see that. I'm going to make a video about this today. I think she's going to be seen at Neon Carnival with Timothy Chalamet at Coachella. I think that's going to be the first time that pictures of them drop, because that is such a classic celebrity move.
That's such a reveal. Yeah.
Yeah, they have hoodies on at like Neon Carnival, like Leonardo always does that. You know what I mean?
Of course, 100%.
So I think we'll see a little bit of that this weekend, but I'm here for it. I think obviously the Kardashians and Jenners get so much hate. It's insane. But Kylie is like a young mom who has a business, but we forget that like she's still young. Like she can still have fun and date and do that type of stuff. So I'm here for
100%. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I agree that the Coachella reveal is interesting because it's very public, but like there are these really private celebrity, quote unquote celebrity only situations that happen kind of adjacent to it. So there's almost like a safety to revealing that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. 100%. There's always some Coachella reveals. And I feel like Timothy always is caught making out with somebody at Coachella. So like fingers crossed it's Kylie, and we can circle back on that.
There we go. And then lastly, something that was announced this week kind of unexpectedly was that Kim Kardashian is going to be in American Horror Story, which is definitely a pivot for her. I think that she's done cameos and certain things like way back in the day, but this is like, it seems like she's acting in this. So what do you make of this moment for her, and maybe what could it tease about what's to come, or is this just be a one-off situation for her?
I think it's going to be a one-off situation for her, but I'm a Kim stan, so I know people were hating it, and I think they had a right to hate it a little bit. They're like, what? Like, this is so crazy and unexpected. But in my brain, how my brain works, I'm like, okay, well, Sarah Paulson is filming the adaptation of Untamed by Glennon Doyle, so she can't be in this season of American Horror Story.
She replaced Sarah Paulson.
Literally, like in my brain, I was like connecting the dots. I was like, where does Kim come into play here? But Kim is, whatever you guys want to say about her, she is such a perfectionist, and so hardworking, and is so intentional about everything she does. And that's gotten her to where gotten her to where she is today. So she's in it for a reason. And I mean, look how many people are already talking about it. Hello, like it's gonna be watched. I'm just gonna It's weird because in my brain, I feel like Kim's my best friend, and I'm like, well, she doesn't like dancing. She doesn't really like being silly.
We know everything.
Like when she did her singing career, she was awkward in the music video. So some parts of her I feel like are very shy, even though she's very out there. I wonder how acting is going to be, but I bet you she's been working with an acting coach for like 2 years to prepare for this, because she would never set herself up for failure. And North is also so into everything spooky and dark. So I feel like North's going to really like geek out over this.
100%. And also, they announced her sort of with Emma Roberts, who is like the queen of like kind of dry, kind of bitchy humor, or like when she's on screen, and I feel like Kim can play off that pretty easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's.
So we'll see. I mean, if you would have told people 15 years ago that Kim Kardashian was going to be one of the biggest business moguls in the celebrity entertainment space, people would be like, no way. But look at where she is now. So I never will hold it past Kim to do something and do it right, because she would never set herself up for failure. So I got to believe in her, and I'm excited to watch it.
I'm with you on that. Well, Robyn, this has been so much fun. I love picking your brain about everything. Have so much fun at Coachella. What do you want to plug before we sign off here?
Yeah, just all of my socials at GirlBossTown on Instagram and TikTok. And if you guys see me and do like a celebrity couple reveal at Coachella, support and like that. Maybe I'll have my own celebrity reveal couple moment too.
On the ground at Neon Carnival is what I expect from you. So.
Keep an eye out. Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to We Should Talk. I hope you enjoyed the interview. You can find out more about In the Know at intheknow.com. You can follow me, Gibson Johns, at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our interviews, past and future, by searching We Should Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Hope to see you next time.